This is the modified version of the previous program. In the previous program, we have used the function sum, and we know that if you use function in the program, then compiler can detect the mistakes, the errors in that function. So syntax error or grammatical error we can identify using compiler. Here we have used a macro, namely sum. So instead of function, we have used a macro. We have created this macro using the preprocessor directive, namely #define. Is it clear to you? Now let us see the working of macro. Here we are calling the macro. Observe carefully. Name of the macro we have written using capital letters. The name of the macro is always written using capital letters. To distinguish the names of function and macro, this convention is followed in C as well as in C++. So whenever there is a call to the macro like this, that time before compilation starts, this code will be replaced. We have called the macros 3 times, and hence this code will replace these 3 calls to macro before compilation of this program. So this means before compilation, this code will become sequential code. In case of function, we know that whenever there is a call to function, the control will jump to the function stack and the arguments, local variables, return address, etc. will be loaded into the function stack, and that process is time consuming. There is a jump of control from call to function to the function stack, and then it will come back over here again. But in case of macros, because there is a replacement of the code, and that is why code will become sequential code, and that is why execution time will be reduced. Is it clear to you? There is one utility in C++, namely cpp.exe, using which we can see this replacement. So let us see what happened before compilation, how your preprocessor directives works using cpp.exe. To study the working of preprocessor directive, we have started MS-DOS. We are inside the cpp directory, in which there is a bin subdirectory, and now we are inside the bin subdirectory. Type here cpp space, then name of the file, that is acpp039a.cpp. Press enter. We got the version of this program after the replacement. Name of that file is acpp039a.i. Press enter to check the content of this newly created file after replacement of the code. You see, previously we have seen our program, it is just a 10-line program, and now after replacement, that is after including the header files as well as after replacing the macros definitions, this is your code. Just see the code. Now it is a very lengthy code. It is not your 10-line program. Just see the code. All the header files are included over here, and at last you can see your code. Now this is your program code. Observe very carefully. Here we have called the macros, namely sum. Every call to this macro is replaced by code of the macro, and the result is program become sequential. In case of function, we know that there is a function stack and control will jump to and fro from your function stack. But here the control will go sequentially I mean, at the time of execution, every step will be executed sequentially. And that is why execution time will be reduced. And that is the biggest advantage of macro. But remember that every coin has two sides. Though there is advantage in case of macro, there is disadvantage too. If you commit any mistake, I mean syntax or grammatical error, in case of writing macros, then really it is very difficult to debug these macros because they are replaced before compilation, and that is why debugging becomes very difficult. Is it clear to you? And that is why in C++ a new facility is added, namely inline function. In next session we'll study inline function. Let us execute this program in a step-by-step manner. Now we are executing this step. We are calling the macro. Observe very carefully. I am pressing F7 key. Control has jumped to the next line. In case of function, we have seen that whenever we press F7 key, the control has jumped to the function. Because of macros, the program flow has changed. This code is replaced before the compilation, and that is why this execution is sequential. And that is why whenever I am pressing F7 key for calling the macros, the control has jumped to the next line. Press F8 key to execute cout statements and see the result at DOS prompt. 30, 40 and 50, these values are displayed. Is it clear to you? Understood the working of this program?